Hello.
Welcome, fellow seeker aspirant victims of Jed Mckenna.
Yes, which we actually think I like the idea of putting the spiritual seeker aspirant.
Spiritual seeker aspirant victims.
Because
Jed mocks spiritualism so much.
well, I was going to say that originally it was just going to be, the series was just going to be seeker aspirant victim, but Jed puts the word spiritual right in the front of all of his books. So it's kind of an homage to that a little bit, because it is for the same reason he's doing it, which is that the people, we want the people who are seeing this content to be like, to be able to have a path there,
Yep. So we did a 30-minute preview video talking about what we're going to do. We're going to go over that really quick right now, what we're doing. This channel and all of its videos will be covering 3 books. I've already had people asking that we review extra books of his, but we'll get to that. Right now we have a goal, and it is to cover the 3 Jed Mckenna books. The first one is called Spiritual Enlightenment, the Damndest thing, and that's what we're starting with.
3 books in the Enlightenment Trilogy.
And the next one is called Spiritually Incorrect Enlightenment, and here is my copy of that. Unfortunately, it lost its cover years ago. And the third one is called Spiritual Warfare. The links will be down below. You may want to get them for purchasing, just Amazon links, and then we'll put a link to Wisefool Press, the people who publish it. My name is Jason Smith. This is my son, Asher.
Asher Smith.
Asher Smith. And we are going to be your hosts on this journey. It's possible we bring someone in over the months and years that we do this who's kind of been involved, but right now there's no plans to. Okay? Yeah. What we're going to do is read the books aloud, but you're going to see that this process is going to be very, very intense and step-by-step. Warning, we do swear. The books do have swearing in them. Not safe for work most of the time. Not safe for life, actually, in a way. Right? The preview video announcing what we're doing is got some good energy. It talks about kind of the whole thing. It'll let you get to know me and Asher, and it'll give you a sense of what's happening. Right? But we're going to dive right in. This is an intense process.
Yeah. Well, and the idea is that it'll be weekly, because that's what we're scheduled for right now. So it'll be every week we'll come together and we'll just pick up where we left off from the last time, with no guiding as to like trying to get through a chapter in a specific amount of time, nothing like that, because the point is to just consume and process and tear it apart, and however long it takes. So there could be, an enormous amount of episodes within a chapter at some point.
And there will be some like that. So let's start with this. I do want us to have some fucking fun. Like, this is going to be fun. It should be intense motherfucking ride. If you're new to Jed, it should undo you to a great degree. And I'm not joking about that. But there's also a lot of fun involved in it. And we've talked about it before. A lot of times I will address Jed. Jed is a private person. He's offline. You cannot talk to him. Just so you know that, completely offline. I'm sure his name is not Jed Mckenna. It's probably Jed, but maybe something else. Anyways, the point I want to say is I will often address him as if he is listening. He is not. Just so you know up front. Okay, so we're going to start with 2 things. I'm going to start about where I heard from Jed, and then he's going to say that. And then I'm going to talk about, really quickly, the impact. Like, why the fuck am I doing this? Why would I care? Why would he care? Like, what the fuck is this book about that we're doing this? This isn't, I don't know. It isn't a transient fiction book that we're going over Harry Potter just for fun.
No, it's based in, it's based in reality.
Yeah.
It's a real book. Yeah.
I think Jed would like that. Because nothing here is based in reality, but this book is based in reality.
This book is, though.
Okay, so a little forgive us. We've read these books probably 10 times each, more. We've dived in them, we've dug them apart, we've done the math, and we're still doing the math on them. And so if at any time we're going to try to be very careful about defining terms.
Yes.
And if at some time we get off and start talking about something, you're going to have to bear with us, but we're going to take you into consideration. Like, I'm not going to cater to you. I really don't give a shit about you in any way, way or form, but I'm going to take you into consideration and try to help you. So what I mean by that energetically is I'm not doing this for your approval. I'm not at all. I don't care what you think, but I do take you into consideration because I'm talking to an audience, and it's a journey, and it's one that's it has a lot of benefits and changes to your life. Okay, so here's my story. I was in a bookstore in Salt Lake City, Utah, called the Dancing Crane. Some of you know that.
Still haven't been there yet. And
it's a new age spiritual fucking place, like with the Wisefool curtains and the drapes and the little plants and the Buddha statues. You've seen them. If you've been there, you've seen them.
The whole deal.
The whole deal. And I, at that time of my life, am working with a teacher named David Data, who's a spiritual guy worth checking out in his own regard. And this very tall guy with like stork legs comes ambling up to me. I'm just in the bookstore. And he says, "Hey, do you read?" And I'm like, looking up at him. I'm like, yeah, I read. He goes, "Who do you read?" I'm like, "David Data." He's like, "Oh, never heard of him." He goes, "You want the last 3 books you'll ever read?" And I'm like, okay. So he gets out a piece of paper. It's a little, and he writes out, Jed Mckenna, Spiritual Enlightenment, the Damndest thing. The next one, Spiritually Incorrect Enlightenment, and Spiritual Warfare. And he hands him his paper, and he's all like, and it turns out his name was Jim, and he was the former owner of the place who had sold everything and has a remarkable story of his own. And so, Jim, if you ever watched these, because at one time, years ago, you thought these were the bee's knees, and you sold your thing, and I heard a little bit about your story from Tom Meekum. And so, anyways, thank you for handing me this. And he said, "This is it. You'll never need any other books." And so I went home. I asked him where to get them, and he said, "Go get them at the Oasis Cafe." And that's bullshit. They're not at the Oasis Cafe. Too new agey for that. And nothing wrong with the Oasis Cafe. I eat there and buy a lot of books there. So
the Golden Braid Bookstore.
Golden Braid Bookstore, Oasis Cafe. Yeah, okay, got it right for accuracy. And I came home, and so I ordered them on Amazon. Just ordered all 3, and wait about a month. I read the front, and then I started reading, and I sat in a chair all day, every day, I don't know, for the next 2 or 3 months. My wife was severely concerned with me. And she eventually got into the books, and they put her on the couch. They just really fucked us up. I'm going to just be completely honest. They fucked us up. Undid everything we thought was true. And so that's the first clue here, that this isn't like a bliss ride. This isn't there's a lot of magic, and you're going to laugh, and you're going to love, and your heart's, it's just amazing journey that you're going to go on with these books. But this isn't a fucking bliss ride. This isn't about people saying, "Oh, I'm going to get enlightened and I'll be happy and peaceful the rest of my life." That's just smoking weed or dipshit stuff. That's not what we're talking about here. And you're going to see that if you stick along. And I'm being really fair, warning you right in the front.
Yeah, well,
okay, so that
I could add my own little thing, because well, as someone who's spent just a ton of time consuming these, I'm excited to do this, very excited, because when you read and consume these books and then you try to talk to other people about them, they don't want to be talked to about them a lot of the time.
Yeah, they don't get it.
They don't get it, and it just doesn't connect. So I'm very excited, because I'm just very excited to go through this, but that excitement is just the way I am. It's the material is, not necessarily super exciting to someone's life. It's pretty serious stuff, and
we're going to take it seriously.
Yes.
So tell them how you came upon the material.
You gave me this book. Damndest when I was 17, probably 16 or
16 it
17,
was, yeah.
maybe 16. But then I read, yeah, I just read it in high school basically. So I was in high school and I read it, and I remember really loving it because I felt like what he was saying was spot on. Like in the first few chapters, he goes through some. He makes the first chapter very, very big on purpose because he wants. I'll get into that, I guess. But the point is that I read it and I didn't really understand like any of the Enlightenment stuff. I did not. I honestly didn't understand it. But a lot of the other things that he touches on within it, even though the first book is mostly that, I really, really connected with, and I got drawn into his narrative, and I just ended up by the end of the book having blown through the first book and just really loved it. And then I didn't read the second or third one the first time. And then a few years later, so when I was like 19, 20, then I read the first one again, and then the second one, and then the third one.
No, you were missing out.
Yeah.
Because the second two are amazing.
Yeah, so then I really, really read those ones. And it was, I don't know, that was just one cursory read through. It was like very, very, very interesting to me. It was mostly in my mind as something that I knew I had to get around to consuming, but just like didn't for then years again after that until I was 21. So maybe it was 19 that I read them the second time. But then when I was 21, so a few years ago, I just picked it up and started reading at a random spot that I had left it at years ago in the second book. And then from that point on, like I just blew through the second, third, and then restarted, and then I got the audiobooks and I put them on. I've just put them on to basically repeat for like a solid year. I was always just somewhere in one of those books. And I'd get to the point where I would just pick a random book, and I'd be like, I'm just going to pick this book and right here, and I'm just going to listen from here. And I just consumed it like that for months. And so I haven't, since then, that was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Oh, damn, maybe it was longer, 3 years ago. But I've continued to read them, but I haven't done what stopped me is that after that massive, deep dose, I then realized that I didn't want to just be, I realized I was consuming it kind of mindlessly, and I wasn't consuming it with the focus that it really deserves.
Right. So to speak to that, that's exactly a process that I went through as well, where I would just start to read and write. And I've come to a level, and it's interesting that you've come to the same level now, where we're like, this material actually is going to require our game to up itself.
Yes, basically, yes, exactly. I realized, I'm not consuming it correctly. It's like I'm not giving it the attention and focus that it really truly deserves if I actually wanted to understand this.
No.
And
I don't think we.
So then I haven't really. Most of my reading of it has just been like referential when I want to go look up something recently. But because for the most part, I actually don't want to consume it anymore until I can consume it the correct way, which I believe is going to be this way.
Oh. And maybe there's another step beyond that to get another level of it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So let's talk. I'm gonna outline Jed's 3 big pieces because it's gonna really contextually explain everything that happens. Okay? So the first state that he talks about, and he doesn't talk about this to the second book, but we're getting ahead, is called human childhood. And so it's a fear-based state. It's a blinded state. You can pretty much relate to it. You've been that way. There's things you're afraid of. There's things that you're terrified about. There's things where you really believe everything was true and found out it wasn't. It's kind of a benighted place to be. And we all there on certain levels. The second state is called the human childhood. No, human adulthood. It has nothing to do with age, by the way. And this is where you spiritually progress to a place where you're free of fears, mostly free, where you see the oneness of the whole world, where you work with your environment instead of against it, body, being, all areas of your life. Right?
Yeah.
That's a frame for how that you can relate to. Like, people that are spiritually dense and childish, and people that are more mature. Sorry, I'm coughing. Then he describes in great detail exactly what he means by the term enlightened. And we'll get into that. And it's another state entirely. And the mistake would be that it's a state within the universe. That it's a state of being nice and happy and agreeable, right? Like that's human adulthood. So these are the 3 frames I want to lay out. We'll get into much more detail for them.
Are you saying enlightenment is considered?
It's not. Not bliss, not joy, not...
No, it's not those things, but it is portrayed as that. Often. Mostly. Yeah.
So we'll get very specific on how we define it.
It's massively misunderstood. It's a term that is thrown around and used often, and nobody often, most of the time, nobody stops and says, wait, what do you specifically mean by that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. People go, well, I want to be enlightened. They don't even know what that fucking term means.
Well, you need the elaboration. He has elaborated on it.
And a lot of what we're going to be doing in these books, as you mentioned in the preview video, is elaborate on terms. So if you and I are talking about enlightenment, we're going to know exactly what the fuck we mean. Period. Like there'll be no mistake. If you think about it, what does enlightened mean? I'm enlightened. I've got enlightenment. What would that mean? Well, some of you out there know exactly what it means, but some of you don't. So the angle of the story that we're telling is going to be getting down into the terminology. Yes. Okay.
Hey, I think, can you pause it real quick?
Yeah.
2-second break. We'll be right back. Pause.
Okay, everybody, here we go. We're going to start by reading the book. Sit back, relax. Asher's going to read the spiritual disclaimer. I read this thing and, man, I just laughed my ass off. Just read straight through. I don't think there's any need to pause and talk about anything.
No, but it is very long, so I might hand it off to you when I don't want to read it anymore.
That's fine. Yep. It's just it's the warning inside the book, and it's pretty fun. So sit back, relax, put your headphones on, enjoy. I mean, it's only a couple pages, but
this is the spiritual disclaimer. Notice is hereby given. By continuing beyond this point, the reader acknowledges and agrees that the state of spiritual enlightenment discussed herein conveys upon the seeker, aspirant, victim no benefits, boons, blessings, or special powers, and bears little to no resemblance to assorted New Age or Eastern varieties widely dispensed under the same name.
Boom!
Orgasmic
going off on it.
Orgasmic euphoria, or orgiastic bliss, obscene wealth, perfect health, eternal peace, angelic ascension, cosmic consciousness, purified aura, astral projection, pan-dimensional travel, extrasensory perception, access to akashic records, profound wisdom, sagely demeanor, radiant countenance, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, and opening of the third eye are not likely to result. Tuning, harmonizing, balancing, energizing, reversing, or opening of the chakras should not be expected. The Kundalini serpent dwelling at the base of your spine will not be awakened, poked, prodded, raised, or otherwise molested.
So, it's the funny part about this is when you read it, you're like, it's so anti-New Age spirituality that you have to kind of, it's a joke, but it's not, is it? Like it's a warning that we're not going to do things the same way. We're going to really look at things differently. So get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, he calls it spiritual disclaimer. Put me in frame.
I know, you keep sliding out.
He calls it the spiritual disclaimer because it's truly a disclaimer.
Yeah.
He means it. It's written such that you'd think it was a joke, but it is not a joke, really.
Funny as shit, though.
It's funny, though. No promise of self-advancement, self-esteem, self-aggrandizement, self-gratification, self-satisfaction, or self-improvement is made or implied. Likewise, self-indulgent, self-involved, self-centered, absorbed, and self-serving persons will not find satisfaction herein. The reader should construe no assurance of reward, rapture, empowerment, deliverance, salvation, enrichment, forgiveness, or eternal rest in the heavenly abode. No raising, altering, transforming, transferring, transposing, transfiguring, transmuting, transcending, or transmigrating of consciousness is to be expected. Purchase or possession of this book does not grant admittance to idyllic or mythical realms, including, but not limited to, Atlantis, Elysium, Garden of Eden, Heaven, Never Never Land, Nirvana, Paradise, Promised Land, Shambhala, Shangri-La, or Utopia. This book makes extensive use of analogy and symbolism. The terms vampire, zombie, caterpillar, butterfly, dream state, Maya, and others are used metaphorically. Likewise, any suggestion that the reader should leap from a skyscraper, step into blazing inferno, perform ritual self-embowelment, or bathe in a vat of corrosive acids are not to be taken literally. The reader is advised that cutting off his or her head, plucking out his or her eye, or chopping off his or her head may result in bodily injury. The pursuit and attainment of spiritual enlightenment may entail loss of ego, identity, humanity, mind, friends, relatives, job, home, children, car, money, jewelry, respect, specificity in time, solidity in space, strict adherence to accepted physical laws, and reason for living. The spiritual enlightenment referred to herein is a process and product of will and self-determination. It requires no reliance on or cooperation with God, Goddess, Satan, discorporate entities, angelic or demonic, gurus, swamis, seers, sages, holy men, priests, teachers, philosophers, fairies, gnomes, pixies, sprites, we folk of any sort.
That's my favorite line in the whole thing. We folk of any sort. I wait for that line every time.
Or any other agent or agency of non-self authority.
Ooh.
Heart-centered approaches and qualities generally considered to be of the essence of spiritual enlightenment, such as love, compassion, tolerance, grace, tranquility, and pacifism, will be viewed herein as antithetical, misleading, and irrelevant. The seeker-aspirant victim has no need of any spiritual practices or belief systems, including but not limited to Buddhism, Kabbalah, Hinduism, Sufism, Taoism, Gnosticism, Mohammedanism, Judaism, paganism, occultism, Zoroastrianism, Wicca, yoga, Tai Chi, Feng Shui, martial arts, magic, or necromancy. The seeker-aspirant victim has no need of any so-called spiritual or New Age paraphernalia, trinkets, or amulets, including but not limited to crystals, gems, stones, seeds, beads, shells, incense, candles, aromas, bells, gongs, chimes, altars, images, or idols. No special clothing, jewelry, adornments, tattoos, or fashion accessories are necessary to this endeavor. The seeker-aspirant victim need not avail him or herself of any of the myriad enlightenment-inducing procedures and techniques, including but not limited to meditation, candle gazing, mantra intoning, subjugation to guru, standing on one leg, pilgrimage on belly, unaided flight, drugs, breathing techniques, fasting, wandering into deserts, self-flagellation, vows of silence, sexual indulgence, or sexual continence. The seeker-aspirant victim has no need or use for any spiritual powers, arts, or sciences, including but not limited to astrology, numerology, divination, tarot, or rune reading. Sorry, that was not the end of the list. Or rune reading, mandala walking, making, fire walking, psychic surgery, automatic writing, channeling, pyramid power, telepathy, clairvoyance, lucid dreaming, dream interpretation, ESP, levitation, bilocation, psychokinesis, or remote viewing. Furthermore, tricks, stunts, or feats such as shooting arrows from horseback, endurance of cold, live burial, materializing ash or jewelry, walking on fire or glass, laying on glass or nails, piercing of face or arms, conjuring, and rope tricks have no bearing or merit as regards to the spiritual enlightenment discussed herein. Confrontation with personal demons. The facing of deep-seated fears and the step-by-step dismantling of personal identity may result in elevated pulse, high blood pressure, loss of equilibrium, loss of motor control, pallor and loss of skin tone, loss of hair and teeth, loss of appetite, loss of sleep, loss of bowel and bladder control, tremors, fatigue, shortness of breath, dry heaves, acid reflux, dyspepsia, halitosis, diarrhea, seborrhea, psoriasis, sweating, swelling, and swooning. The emotional upheaval attendant upon the discovery that one is oneself a fictional character in a staged drama may result in forlornness, Weltschmerz, intolerance, anger, hostility, resentment, hopefulness, despondency, suicidal despair, morbid depression, and a suffocating awareness of life's meaninglessness. The seeker-aspirant victim is hereby advised that study of ancient cultures, travel to distant lands, or learning of foreign languages avails not in the least, and that for the purposes of understanding and attaining the spiritual enlightenment discussed herein, there is no better place than here, and no better time than now. This book is not intended for human consumption. If ingested, induce vomiting and seek immediate medical assistance. Avoid inserting this book into bodily cavities. Repeatedly plunging this book into mouth, eyes, ears, nose, vagina, or rectum may result in unsightly bulges and painful burning sensations. If symptoms persist, consult a qualified metaphysician. All characters, places, and events depicted in this book are entirely fictional insofar as this book and the universe in which it exists are entirely fictional. Any resemblance to actual people, places, and events is purely the result of resemblance to actual people, places, and events. No dolphins were swum with in the making of this book. Removal of this warning is illegal where prohibited by law. Batteries not included. Be careful what you wish for. Jed Mckenna action figures sold separately.
So when I read that the first time, I was like, holy shit, like what the hell? I mean, it really was funny. But it was also very, read it through this many times later. I mean, he's actually saying something. Jed, you're saying something, you know, through a humorous veil, that this is not your new age spiritual gobbledygook. It's going to be different.
Yeah, well, honestly, so there's a part, I think it's in the second book when he's talking to Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, he's talking about the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about the process by which that was completed, and he says, I think he says something about how they made sure that it was complete, that it could stand on its own. There wasn't going to be any other book that needed to be written after the first one necessarily. He just wanted it to be complete. I believe the way he says it is, "We done good."
He does say that.
It was comprehensive.
Yep.
What you learn later, I think he mentions it maybe in a different book. I'm not entirely sure, like a different book series. But he talks about how it goes more than that. It goes so far as, he went so far as to attempt to put everything that was of the most importance, like anything you would really need, in the first chapter.
Yeah.
Like he engineered it that way, so that the first chapter, because I think he understood or suspected, this is my guess, that people weren't going to get much further past that first chapter. So he had to put everything in it. And this, to me, now that we're going through this right now, makes me realize that he put it even before the first chapter. He put most of the crazy stuff that he's gonna assert within that disclaimer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, I love that disclaimer.
Me too.
I forget how long it is.
Yeah. I just read it the other day to a friend, and towards the end started to realize.
Oh.
Whew. Okay. Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damndest Thing by Jed Mckenna. Book 1 of the Enlightenment Trilogy. This is the 2010 edition. Now, it's worth noting that, see what this looks like? And we'll put links to these in here. If you go look on Amazon, you'll find older versions of this.
Really?
They've got a different looking cover, yeah. And
I didn't know that.
what's difference between those is that they don't have the bonus content. So this book has a few extra bonus content chapters. That's the big difference.
Yeah, he actually released He released the 3 books, and then he released
A notebook.
something called Jed Mckenna's Notebook, which was the extra content, bonus content from all the 3 books. I don't know why he did it that way. I wasn't there.
It's probably a publishing decision.
Yeah, I don't know why the publishing decision was made. But now, if you just buy the first book, you just get the first book and its bonus content. One cohesive unit.
Done deal.
For each book. So the notebook is not necessary.
This book is dedicated to who?
Walt Whitman.
Walt Whitman. So we will be hearing a lot of Walt's poems, not just in this book, but in all of them. And you'll get to know Walt a lot better than you maybe thought you did.
Yeah, I haven't read. Most of my exposure to Walt Whitman is all from Jed's stuff. So.
Yep. Vitam. Okay, I'm gonna murder some fucking Latin right here. Vitam impendere vero juvenal. Stake life upon truth. That's going to mean a lot as you keep going on your journey, won't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Jed's very intentional with these things. Yes, you are, Jed. Okay. So here we go. This is the start of the journey. The frame of this in the first chapter is he's sitting there talking with a young girl named Sarah. And she is new to the game, to the spiritual game. Okay?
Right.
And so everything will be covered in that. The second chapter, I'm going to give you a frame for the first 3 chapters. We're going to meet someone who's been in the game of spiritual development his whole life. So it's pretty cool. You're going to see one side, the new person, and 2, the person who's been stuck their whole life. So that's the frame for how this is coming up.
Right. You said 3 chapters.
Well, the 3rd chapter is with Paul, who becomes enlightened.
Right. Okay. That's the full picture.
The full picture. So, like Asher said, it's all right here. Okay? It's all right here. So here we go on the journey. You're with us. We're glad to have you. It's a solo journey, but maybe will be the key to unlock some of your doors.
Yeah.
And maybe us doing this will be the key to unlock some of our doors that we're still trying to pass through.
Yeah, it's a scholarly endeavor, you know.
One thing should be said is that we don't want to team up and herd up and slow down our own individual progress here. You know, this is a laser hot focus. I mean, you know, there's quite a few places where Jed talks to people. I can think of talking to people at Brett's funeral, right? Mm-hmm. And he says something like, that's the 3rd book. There's a funeral in the 3rd book. And he says something like, hey, you guys are all just wasting your time. You're not really serious about growth. And the guy goes, fuck you. Some guy in the stands, he's like, fuck you. I think we're serious. We're all here. We're hot. We're excited for this shit. And he goes, how do you think we're not serious? And Jed's answer is, well, by coming here. By grouping up and starting to think that we're going somewhere together. It's a pretty strong indictment. You're going to understand something about Jed is he is a solo motherfucker. Like, Jed, aren't you? You're a solo fucker. Like, fuck everyone else. You did this on your own. And so we're not going to ever take that solo element out of this story. It's your fucking journey. No one can take it for you.
Yeah, and
we're not here to sedate you and put you to sleep.
That's not the idea, no.
No.
Well, and the reason I liked what I'm connecting a lot with what you said when you said, like, I don't care about you, like, to the listeners, because really what we just mean is that it's not really about a constant interaction with people necessarily. It's just, we're just focusing on this. That's the point.
Yeah, and you know what's worth mentioning here, which is something that I learned from Jed, which he uses this word. Is it indicated? And we're going to talk a lot about what the fuck that means and how he layers in his stories trying to teach you how to learn how to work in the integrated state, how to live your life from that way. And I think it's worth noting that it's entirely possible that we are egoically masturbating and distracting ourselves right here, right now, by talking to you, that this is a total waste of time, that the reason we're doing this is to make sure we don't make any goddamn fucking progress. However, it's also possible, because of the circumstances by which this came up in the patterns of the universe for me and Asher, that this is actually indicated. And we do not have any fucking clue why we're doing this, but we're just trusting the pattern.
Yes.
Because it did come up kind of like, holy shit, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's been in my head for...
It's been arising
over
for a long
year.
time. And then when this just happened, it just happened. And we went, click. We felt a click. So we're trying to operate on the integrated system here. System. It's a system. And I will sell it to you for only $1,099. The end of this entire video, sir, is I'm going to pitch you for some money. But it's worth mentioning that we could seriously be distracting ourselves from making progress.
I think it's really important to mention that because
Yeah.
it's important for us to mention it right now because the content that we're going to go over is, a lot of it is going to be like, blatantly in our faces shitting on what we're doing right now.
Why don't you tell everyone one of your favorite sayings from him? Man is a
self-fertilizing animal. You either rise out of your own shit or not at all. I think I messed up the tenses there, but...
No worries.
Yes.
You got the meaning? You're either going to rise up out of your own shit. So we're hoping, right, that you're not using this as a distraction, and we're hoping that we're not really in charge of all that. The universe is. And so at this place, this time, where this feels good, we're supposed to do this. So fuck it, we're going to do it.
Yes.
As I often say, I don't work for you, I work for the universe. So go fuck yourself.
Yes. Exactly.
Let's get to this. Here we go. That which cannot be simpler. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Reducing it down to the simplest form.
Yeah.
You know what really helped me with this? We haven't even started. Was that fucking book, Jed Mckenna's Theory of Everything. There's a fourth book that he writes, right? He's got quite about like 6 or 7 now. 7 or 8. But we're up to Jed Talks 2 as we're writing this, as we're talking this. He's got a second trilogy, which is lighter, and you don't have to read it. But the first one is called Jed Mckenna's Theory of Everything. And in it, he actually takes the thing and simplifies it down. Something that I wish he had done here. He said this was complete. Fucker, it wasn't complete. Really? You read that and you said, I wish I'd had this information.
That is really true, but here's the point. We have the time to do this, is the whole point. Like, I still think that the reason that he says he can say that is because some of the lines in here where he talks about, it was the one, okay. The spiritual enlightenment referred to herein is a process and product of will and self-determination. Like, he kind of means that. He put all these little warnings that he puts in there. They're all
in there.
They're warnings. There's a a reason that he put them in there. It's because that data is important. It's not just you might just think like it's a disclaimer. It's whatever, but it's not just a disclaimer. He's put the information in there on purpose. And I don't know. The whole point of this is to look at something that you'd be like, oh, that's a funny line. But it's like, no, it's not a funny line. Look, what does that word mean? What does that sentence mean? Why did he say it right there?
And that's what we're going to do. So, speaking of that, he opens every single chapter with a quote or a poem. Yeah. So some of these are fucking amazing. I mean, some of these just, like, he put some work into this shit. Right?
Yeah, he put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
It shows...
He did a good job, Jed.
It shows how even though despite how much these are shitting on the spiritual marketplace and, everything to do with the spiritual stuff, it shows how ridiculously well-read he is across the spiritual marketplace of data.
Yeah, he did his studies. Okay. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. Walt Whitman. So what's he saying? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems.
Well, if I was getting into it, it would be that he gets, the way I would interpret that is that he talks about how Walt Whitman's work, I'm trying to remember this specifically. Walt Whitman's poetry at its best is all about a certain stage of development or understanding. And he says, like, to even go further, that all poetry is about this specific state. So that's where the all poetry things are connecting in my mind.
You're wrong. That's not what it means.
Then I don't know.
Okay.
This is what we're talking about.
Stop this day and night with me. He's saying, stop with me. You guys are reading. Stop with me, Jed. Today, reading this book. And you shall possess the origin, the truth.
That's what I'm saying.
Of all things. As you come on this journey with Jed, with us.
Yes.
Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah, I'm saying that he later references the origin or poetry encompassing all of something as like a very highly valued thing, and so that's what he's saying. Stop here with us, and you're going to get the origin of all poetry. Which is a significant thing, if you think about it.
I'm glad that we disagree and have some friction. It'll be entertaining.
I think it's important.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're ready. You guys have been waiting for this. This is when Luke meets R2 and C-3PO. This is great. You're going to love this. Finds out that Darth's his father. Shit, I ruined it. She has just finished enumerating for me the many facets of her spiritual journey and is now looking to me for a response. Hopefully approval, perhaps even praise. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint her. I don't really take pleasure in dashing the hopes of pretty young ladies, but that's my job. I'm the enlightened guy. So the reason you're doing all these things, I count them off on my fingers. Meditating, praying, chanting, yoga, vegetarianism, attending darshan and satsang with realized beings, donating money to Greenpeace, Amnesty International, and Free Tibet, reading classical spiritual literature, purifying yourself, abstaining from sex, and so on. The reason for all this is what? You wrote a note. Do you have something to say?
Yeah. I wrote that when he says, I'm the enlightened guy. Again, I have a lot to say, I guess. Damn. The first level is that the reason that's important is that he's claiming in reality that he is in this state. He's claiming that he is an enlightened person.
Yeah, when he gets...
The first line of the book is him saying, or within that first sentence is, she's this person and I'm the enlightened guy. That's the perspective of the book.
You ready for this? I'm gonna give you a little thrill of excitement.
Yeah.
And the second book opens with, call me Ahab.
Yeah.
You don't know what we're talking about unless you've read it.
That's good.
We'll try not to do stupid shit like that because you're not in the loop and I don't want to make you feel stupid. But the second book, that's going to make some sense and you're going to go, woo! We got a lot of fun moments like that. So one of the fun parts is the connections, right?
Yes.
Like that's like Jed tells great stories about great people, but when the insights come, and he says it somewhere in there, right? He's a big fan of epiphanies. Well, this book is about epiphanies.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. So
there's another level too. There's more. This is now just observation about us studying Jed's content, the way he chooses to deliver to it or deliver the information. It's going to be a common theme that within Jed's style of disseminating information. The entire strategy of the book was that he was going to write something with a narrative and with his humor in it to make it interesting so that people would consume it at all, right? So that means a lot of the time, the humor is there, but you can't let that humor that came along with the information mean that the information can be discounted.
oh no.
At all. Just because he said it funny doesn't mean he didn't still say it. That's what needs to be. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and especially like this I'm the enlightened guy,
I'm
right?
the enlightened
so
guy.
that's
You're like,
so
oh.
fucking self-deprecating because he doesn't exist anymore. He's not there to call himself enlightened. So the layers of humor, Jed,
it's layered.
Yeah, it's layered.
If you pay attention the way he says to pay attention, you start to understand the levels of serious work and insight and effort that went into this.
Yeah, and the best part about that effort is that he didn't study books. You know, here's my Kindle. He didn't study the books like we're studying them. He didn't do it. He just went on a solo maniac psycho fucking quest to find out what was true. He just said, this or death, period. And for 2 fucking psycho years, he burned. He burned up. And then he got here. And then it took about 10 years, he said, to finally figure his footing out. Yep. So when he talks, he doesn't have to fucking look at books. He doesn't have to cross-reference. He doesn't do this bullshit stuff. Because he took the fucking journey.
Yeah, he did the work and did the math.
He did the work and did the math.
Yeah, basically, his perspective of this book is like, you know, you could think of it like students coming to him asking about questions in part of the equation. But he's got the entire answer book and the equation written out all the way from start to beginning. He's done that math already, so all he sees as a part of the equation is like, oh, well, I know exactly that part. That's why he can, you know, fill this role. It's hard to say that. It's hard to say. I'm realizing it's going to be a little bit difficult sometimes to talk about that because I say for him to fill this role, but like, again, we don't even know if this actually happened. I don't know if any of the people in this book are real. It's just that that's what he had to do to be able to write the book, you know, to have the teacher's perspective so that he could disseminate the information in a way.
Yeah, but let me suggest as we start off something here, right?
You should have like a pre-decided...
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, I choose to believe him.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true.
So let me tell you why.
I don't want to be second-guessing myself.
Yeah, because let me tell you what. I can chase him down and try to find him for a guru, which is me jerking off and avoiding my actual fucking work. Or I can question, look up on the internet, who's real Jed, try to find him, try to disprove him, try to make him look like a fucking idiot. If I find him, he's actually some guy in fucking Canada who's fucking teenage girls or something. I don't know, I'm making shit up, right? And I'm just as fucking distracting myself. This isn't about Jed. So Jed, I know you're listening. Fuck you. I don't give a fuck about you. I'm not coming to find you. If we ever did meet at a cafe, we'd probably have an interesting conversation because I'd ask you some questions and hopefully you could help me. One of your superpowers is get to the next question that is blocking my way. If not, no big fucking deal. It would be the universe doing it, right?
Yeah.
Especially after this fucking talk.
Thank you. That's what I put it. The way that we're, you know, to really look at this and look at interacting with Jed would just be that if there was any interaction, even from these videos that we do, if there was anything, which I don't think there ever would be, but if there was, it would not be us seeking it. It would be just that the universe gave it, you know, made it happen.
Yeah.
And I understand and accept that, and I have no issues with that. That's how I would want it to be moving forward because all of that seeking and guru, whatever is a waste of energy, which. Sorry, I'm going a little bit of a rant here, but to continue on in my line of thought, that's kind of why I want to tear this book apart, because I've realized that I am guruifying him.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to do that anymore, and I want to pick this apart and be very serious about it instead of raising him on a pedestal.
Have you ever seen...
making a fucking multi-year-long project tearing apart someone's book does kind of... It's putting the info... Here's the focus. We're putting the content, the information on a pedestal, on a thing, but not necessarily Jed.
No, not at all. I don't give a fuck about Jed.
I don't give a fuck about him necessarily to whatever degree. It's really, this is what I'm grateful for. This is what we're used to. This is what we're ripping apart.
So we should say this. The content in this fucking book is of particular interest to both of us. And it is like if you got really interested in particle physics or brain surgery, right? And you said, you got consumed by that shit. Well, then you'd have to read a lot. You'd have to study. You'd have to practice. You'd have to do the work. This little thing we're doing, this is just us doing the work. Like, that's what the spirits tell. That's why the universe has got us to do it. It's just to do the work. To take this to a new level of understanding, to tear it apart, which means we're tearing ourselves apart. You're going to get that pretty quick. This dissemination of ego is the dissemination of Jason, the dissemination of Asher.
You should explain why you keep saying Riley. That's our brother.
That's our
He's
brother.
just doing the parent thing where
I can't remember
where he
kids'
says
names.
the wrong kid's name first.
Something yeah. Well, seem to me. No, that's not true. Okay, so we had why the reason you're doing all this. Yoga, satsang, the whole thing. Which is just starting off with such a beautiful fucking premise here. She just stares back at me, mutely, as if the answer is too obvious to need stating, but it does need stating. I want it out here in front of us where we can examine it and poke it with our pointy little brains.
I didn't realize that he was going to explain for us what we're doing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want it out there in front of us where we can examine it and poke at it with our pointy little brains. We're going to be doing some poking. Okay. Well, she begins, still not quite believing I actually want her to state something so obvious. Spiritual growth, I guess. I want to, be a better person and be able to love more deeply and, raise my vibrational, I'm hanging on every word. Your vibrational what? Frequency. I want to, raise my level of consciousness to be more in touch with, my inner self, my higher self. I want to open myself up to the divine energy that's, everywhere. Oh, okay. Why? Huh? Why? Why what? Why everything you just said? Why do you want to raise your levels and be in touch and open yourself up and all that? Well, spiritual enlightenment. Okay. Is that it? You want to be enlightened? She looks at me like it's a trick question, but it's not. It's the first question. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Where is this going? If you know, you'll succeed. If you don't, you won't. That's not just pretty talk. That's the law.
I like that.
So it sounds like we're going to have to pause and talk about that.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know, to go over it, I just want to make that makes now that makes me feel like I want to make sure that we've done that with this to some degree. Yeah, I think we've done a lot of that, but it's like what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And where is it going? Well, I don't know if I necessarily do have a specific end goal other than the fact that I just want these. I want it to be that at the end of this, we want to be able to be certified scholars in this for these books. We're like that level of understanding of it.
So for me,
Beyond that, so that I can then know all the information for ourselves and then make my own decisions based on the information we uncover, the understandings I uncover.
so this will be a journey for everyone, but I'll tell you what I'm doing, what I think I'm doing here. We'll find out, because the universe will unfold that. Okay? When I first got introduced to the concept of enlightenment, and you get it, you're going to realize that you don't want it. Very specifically, you don't want it. That it's a state that's, as he defined it, you got to understand when we're going to define this term, you don't want it. You can't want it. It's not wantable. Having said that, there is a state that is along the same lines.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. This is a good one here.
It's called human adulthood. I talked about it earlier in the video. And we're going to talk a lot about that. As enlightenment is defined, I can't want it. If I begin that journey, I will begin it. So far, that hasn't happened. I don't think I'm going for enlightenment as Jed defines it. Don't think that's going to happen in this life or any life that I know of. But when I began to see the differentiation, that I was not living my life, that I was not sovereign, that I was a child, that I was completely afraid of every fucking thing, including my own shadow, it became imperative to me that fucking change. Like, seriously fucking change. And burning pages, burning layers, burning pain, screaming, yelling, it's a non-negotiable piece. Though I kind of go back to sleep sometimes. I want to live as a human adult. And we'll explain that. But it's free of fear. It's integrated with the world. It's a seamless place. But you're not completely leaving like an enlightened person would. Again, this will become clear. And so I've said a prayer and I wrote to the universe, like, whatever it takes. Like, I want to grow the fuck up. And I've been on a process of destroying my fears. And I will say it's a lot like what Ahab says, or maybe it's Melville somewhere. He says, you will have cause to look at that beast and find that he's indomitable. And it's impossible, as Julie talks about. And I faced that. Like, the levels of fears and programming culturally in me is way bigger monster than I ever fucking thought. I thought you could just clean up some fears, grow up, do a little shadow work, and you would be a fucking human adult. And it's been a goddamn war. And it's still going. And this kid's doing it too. He's got less shit to do it with because he's younger. But he's still got the shit.
Plenty.
And so I want to be a fucking human adult. So the only reason I'm doing this has to be because I made that intention in prayer to the universe. I need to grow up. So if I'm doing this, it's either a distraction from that or it's heading me in that direction. And trust me, the day I find this is a distraction and I see that clearly, I will stop fucking doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That my goal was not, or what I said earlier for what I would want as an end goal, or where it's leading to, was not correct. Well, not a full picture. That's ultimately it. Was that I would love to either. I want human adulthood. I want to know enough information to be able to recognize that process, where that can happen in my life and know what I'm looking at and know what I'm doing. Instead of just blindly wandering, which, is kind of just what you have to do. But the way you fix that for yourself is you give yourself tools, give yourself things to be able to operate and navigate. And that's what these books are. Or they're at least the first step to gaining those ourselves.
But remember the imagery of, like, a ball. I'm using a fucking lighter, but so this is you, right? So in order for the gas in here to expand to fill the whole space, you have to fucking kill this outside shell. Yeah. So a human adult's rightful energy is to fill all of space fearlessly.
Well, the way he explains it, which is really good, is to say instead of, the comparison explanation would be, you don't want to make the universe come down to your size. You want to expand yourself instead out. You don't want to take this whole fucking room and pack it into the lighter. You want to crack that open and have it expand to fill the room. That's, those would be the comparisons.
Yeah, and so what's stopping us is our layers of fears and identity.
Yeah. And it ignorance.
Yeah.
Ignorance.
So we're not looking for tools to get shit. We're looking for tools to destroy shit, to kill ourselves, to kill the fears that make us us.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on a witch hunt to murder ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And 90% of the weight of this, feel the weight, right? 99% of the weight of this is the shit around it. And that's what we get attached to. That's what I'm attached to. But the power is in being the gas that fills all of space.
Well, and the point is, it's not just what you get attached to; it's what you are. You
Yeah, my attachments are.
You don't know anything else.
So this is a journey of destruction. Mark, no fucking games. I'm not going to give you tools to fucking. I mean, I can give you tools. I teach people tools to get along better in sexual intimacy. I mean, I'm a sexual intimacy coach. Fuck it, right? Right here. Kill your fears. Kill yourself, those attachments you have to yourself, your identity, and expand. And it's not easy because your identity is in your fucking fears. And my identity is in my fears.
I'd never thought of that like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let me give you an example for you. Let's just... Oh, we were having some fun earlier, weren't we? We were laughing and giggling like schoolgirls. Now I got really fucking serious. So, when I contemplate my son, right? There's an attachment love, which is I gotta hold on to him, make sure he's safe. Gotta hold on to him. Or there's a fuck him. He lives his own life. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Fuck him. The human adult says, I love my son. I just love him. And I'm not digging the fear-based fucking energetic talons into him. And when I let go of you, so let me make this personal, and love you like that, my fears come up and go, he's going to fall and die if you don't hold on to him. He's going to die. He's going to die. He's going to die. And when I scream, I mean they scream. And it's with every single person in my life. I'm not saying throw them away, but when I just openly love them with like the gas expanding, like he and I love this moment and I may never see him again. And I'm okay with that. That's fucking hard. Because everything else is fear-based, grabbing onto him and controlling him because I'm afraid of losing him. Well,
and I would say that's got to be an intrinsic parental attachment.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That is, for most, probably all parents, the average parent deals with in some, and you see the parents who don't deal with it as those parents who just are like fucking ticks on their children's lives.
That's a great one. Ticks on their...
Because they just are overwhelmed by their fears. I didn't think about that phrase, that your identity is in your fears, is really, there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot to unpack with that.
And when I love you, I'm going to give you the second piece. When I love you like this and don't hold on, I feel like I'm falling. I feel like I'm in free fall. I'm in terrified. It's terrifying. Every day, Jenny goes to work. That's my wife. And I love her. And I say goodbye. And she goes. And about a week ago, I said, what if I just step back, feel the immensity of space, feel the integrated state, and just love her and let her go? And my body fucking tightened up and said, she's gonna die if you don't attach to her. Like I am brutally broken and unqualified to lead you on any journey here.
No, it's...
Because my wife goes to work every day, and I discovered through this process of this work how even wishing her well, drive safely, I was putting an energetic, fear-based fucking hook on her. And I feel it now, and it's to me, it's disgusting. And every time I let go, because my habit is to control energetically, him, his brother, his sister, control, and I let go, it terrifies me because I feel like I'm falling. Some of my journey. And that's who I am. My fears and hope that hold on to him.
Right.
That's who I am. So why I feel like I'm falling, it's not because I feel like I'm losing her, because I don't even know who the fuck I am anymore if I don't fucking control my kids like a tick.
Yeah, so you're putting your identity into your emotional connections instead of, well, not instead of, I would say, compared to cultivating your, authentic interests, whatever, attention to things that aren't fear-based. But there was a level of detail I wanted to talk on this. It was somewhere earlier. That's why I need to be taking notes while you're talking, so I can come back.
I like that you do that. It's really good.
I'm sure they'll come right back.
Okay. If you know, you'll succeed. If you don't, you won't. That's not just pretty talk, that's the law. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And where is this going? Yeah, I guess so. I smile reassuringly. Good. So the reason you do all this stuff is to become enlightened, to achieve spiritual enlightenment. Does that sound about right? A pause. Yeah, I guess. Well, let's just spend a few minutes talking about it and see if we can make it any clearer. What do you think spiritual enlightenment is? She's giving me the big eyes again, but now a bit of perplexity seeps in. It was so obvious a moment ago that it hardly needed asking. Now it's becoming a little fuzzy. And Jed will do that to you. He will make everything a bit fuzzy. Like God mind, unity, unity consciousness. It's always like this with the new students. They do the student thing. I do the teacher thing. I'm never quite sure why they came, or when they'll go. The whole process is equal parts fulfillment and frustration. I talk, they listen. They ask, I answer. I speak, who knows? Say something. How my words are received or what becomes of them after they leave my lips is beyond my ability to control. I speak, that's all. The words flow like song and soothe me. That's my thing. Nodding and maintaining a facial expression that conveys interest and receptiveness is her thing. I'm into the speaking, into my words, and how well they represent the underlying ideas. It would be nice to believe that my words were clicking in her brain like the beads of an abacus, but I know they're not, and I'm comfortable with that. Act, but don't reflect on the fruit of the act, said Krishna to Arjuna. Sign me up. It's funny. Before he says something, we are in tune on this fucking book. Because when I get into a paragraph, I can feel that you're on, we both know this paragraph, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And so I can already feel you over there. We've talked about this book a lot, but we've never done this. So this is a new journey for us.
Well, we've never done this after. We did those bike rides down to the park where we made some, but that was before I had a little bit of an obsession with it. So.
Yeah. Okay. What came up for you?
Well, the act, but don't reflect on the fruit of the act that's a very important, just initial mention, because he goes back to that later a couple of times, I think, at least once. And that one's really hard to fully understand because there's just a lot of different frames under which it could be understood, I guess. Like with motivation wise, like if you were thinking about that and trying to get something out of it, I don't know. I think I guess it's a hard quote. It's not exactly totally specific.
You know what it is? It's not useful right now.
It's not full. Thank you.
But it will be useful later.
Thank you. That is the word I'm looking for. It's not useful right now. But if you were like stuck on something,
Yeah.
It would be. It's important.
It is very important. Yeah, and it speaks a little to what I just said, loving you and not like what does he say? Let's use the words exactly as he said it. Act, but don't reflect on the fruit of the act. Love, but don't reflect on the fruit. Don't hold on and hope. Just let it go. And so the universe comes up through you.
Now I have more to say.
Yeah, right. It comes up through you. I say it to you, particularly any parent here knows how to this, right? I say something to my kid, they better fucking get it and they better change their behavior. But what if you just simply shut your mouth, then you felt something say, maybe you should wake up earlier and start eating a green smoothie. And walking the fuck out with no attachment to it. And he could go, how come Dad's not putting his hooks in me? How come he's not? He just said this crazy thing about green smoothies. Does he care? Is he mad if I don't? No, he loves me no matter what. So, right?
Yeah, well then, okay. You're getting into exactly what was going to be my point. The key word, I think, in this specific quote, is act, but don't reflect on the fruit of the act. He doesn't say don't enjoy the fruit of the act. He says doesn't say don't consume the fruit of the act. He says don't reflect on it. Don't stop and put energy into wondering about the fruit.
Mm-hmm. Or get attached, right?
Yeah,
To
that's
story in your head.
That's not the point.
Good stuff. Sign me up too. When I act in that state, that's the human adult state. When I act in that state, it is fearless. It's wonderful. It's peaceful. Wisdom comes through or doesn't, and it flows. It's only ego that stomps it down.
Yes. I also have, I guess I'm having like a pop-up of something to say, which is that we, like having done some more learning and understanding about personality types and the big 5 personality scales of like openness, and I don't know all of them off the top of my head. The point being is that we happen to be like, we're father and son, and we also happen to be very similar. Like we're very similar types of people in the sense that we're both, I would say, very like impulsive and very open.
I'm just finding this out.
And so like when we read something like that, like act but don't reflect on the fruit of the act, like to me I just have examples of it. Like I've had times where I was at a show and I just got a wild urge to buy, for instance, okay, someone was juggling with just bean bags or whatever, hacky sacks, and then I was like, I just felt the urge to buy this person some poi balls so that he could juggle with poi balls instead. I didn't at the time, like I didn't know why. I was like, I don't understand. I guess I'm just gonna. That feels like something I should do. So just a gut feeling, and I did it, and then it just happened to build like that action in that moment for me was really cool because it was like, I think I should buy this person these things. So I just did, and that was it. But the truth is that the consequences of that interaction, as I've understood later, following up, is that it was a massive change and motivation for that person to do things, and there's all this stuff that came from it. But I wasn't thinking about any of that in that moment. I was just thinking, I kind of have a gut feeling I should do this. And so it could be, that was an example of buying something, but it could also be, I just had a gut feeling I should buy 3 books that some dude just told me to buy in a store, which is what you did. Does that make sense?
Or the gym.
There's an impulsiveness and an openness that we have that led us to leaping into this. That other people, on the personality spectrum, there's somebody who's interested in this, but they're just not that type of person. They didn't come to it like that. You came to it by nature through a path of openness and trusting.
Yeah, and so this is, yeah, I do that. A lot of people will say that about me, that I just will do shit like that. But where I get weak, right, is when it comes to my family or certain painful connections. And then I will reflect on the act. Because you and I are exactly the same way. We were at a show, some fellow named Excision came to Salt Lake February 1st, 2nd. Anyways, so I'll tell you a little story about this. This is the way I operate. So I'm at the show. I brought a couple friends. I'm there with my wife and some other people. You're there. It's a fun experience. We like the festival of music place. It's a peak experience. It's a God-conscious unity thing, as Jed would say. You know, if you want your experiences, go chase them. I go get them when I need them or want them. And I was there sitting with my wife, standing with my wife, and like the impulse came up, the indication came up. Jason, you need to go down into the pit. Because I was up on a balcony. And I was like, okay. So I just went down there. I said, I got to go down there. And my wife said, oh, yeah, there he goes. I'll go down there. And like, I have no idea why I'm down there. I'm down there. There's a guy down there. And we talk kind of as much as you could under the loud music. Kind of bonded. It was a young kid. He was like, wow, how old are you? And like, he ended up just hugging me and was, I don't know, it was like a weird little father figure moment. He was like just so glad to have, he wanted me close, and I was like, this is weird. And then the voice kind of said, it's time to go back. Okay. I don't know what became of that. I just go where the fucking flow goes, right? But here's the question. Let me say something to you about this. I had come with a friend, Ben. He was angry. Very, very angry after. You abandoned me. You brought me to this place and you just fucking left. And then 30 minutes later, you walk back like nothing had happened. Who the hell are you? What the fuck did you do? Where'd you go?
Does he not know you? That's how I operate as well. That's just really funny.
And, okay. I don't know. I don't put, and Jed will talk about this and other spiritual people talk about the flow of right action and everything. And his worry kind of impinged me. Like, I was like, God, if I ever go to another show with him, and my ego is now worried and stuff like that. And so I don't know what the fruit of these moments are. I particularly get moments to text people. Hi. Sometimes they never text back, and I'm all like, I never know.
Right.
And so I've developed the skill cutting away my fears, cutting away my, there's a part of me that goes, how come I texted that guy? How come he's not responding? Should I text him again? But then you kind of get to that point where you just do. You act without reflecting on the act. And it's a process of cutting away fears. It's not something you can just go do. That's why I said it's not useful right now.
You're saying it's not useful, but I think that all of this conversation means it's inherently.
Well, yeah.
It is. There's so much.
But you can't just give someone that line.
Acting without.
And stop reflecting, because they're not just going to stop reflecting. If their habit is to reflect and attach, they're going to have a lot.
Everybody's habit. That is the human conditioned habit, is to act and then reflect and invest.
Yeah. So you have to murder parts of yourself. That's a separate process to get to the point where you stop reflecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just go, oh, I'll just stop reflecting.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm saying.
No, I agree. And man, I thought these books were amazing and genius and perfect before, but like now going through this at this level, it's like I'm just excited. If we can unpack all of this from what we've done, like this is exactly. So
let's ask a question that's coming up for me. Where are you in this equation? Where are you in the acting, reflecting, and attaching equation? This is about you.
Concerning what context in general?
Yeah, how are you in this process of acting and not reflecting on the act? She's talking to you. So, you're the kid here.
Okay,
you're Sarah.
Hold on a second. Okay. Well, where am I at? I have an example of something that I wanted to talk about. It was a story. I had a crazy experience that gives.
Is this the one? Oh, that's the crazy story.
No, this is different. I don't think I talked to you about this.
Okay, I want to hear.
Because it's real. Because if I did, I would have had to tell the whole story, which is why I'm waiting. So I gotta try to just get down to the details. But the basic idea is I was just on a long vacation, a Caribbean cruise, and
so look at the cameras, yes. And you're talking to the people out there. They're listening to you.
was on a Caribbean cruise, and one of the ports, it doesn't matter what it was. We got on a boat ride for an all-day snorkeling boat tour. Just goes around the island. And I was wearing my hat, which
It's usually here.
it's usually here, and it's around here. It's probably just in the other room. But I was wearing my hat, and my hat is, I'm just gonna get it. Just pause it.